Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown. Hello and welcome to Sitcom Showdown, episode 52. My name's Jeffers and it's my turn, and I'd like to introduce to you my brother Steve.
Thanks, Jeff. Hello, listeners. It's great to have you with us for another episode of Sitcom Showdown.
Yes, and it's my turn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got for us?
What I've got for you is one I know you know. It's Upstart Crow.
You know that I know Upstart Crow.
Yes, you're
Very
a poet.
good. Yeah.
There you go, Steve. You're already into the spirit of the whole thing.
Yeah.
All the Shakespeare's coming through. So the episode that we've chosen, or I've chosen, is Series 2, Episode 4. It's called Food of Love. That's
a sonnet one, is it?
It's from one of his plays. You know, that if music be the food of love, play on. So you know it's going to be music based. Is this giving you a clue?
No.
No,
I'll forget.
Fair enough. So Upstart Crow started in 2016. It is famously a Ben Elton written sitcom starring David Mitchell. But it went for 3 series, 2016, 2017, 2018. I'm not sure we're getting any more. I don't think we're getting any more, are we? Well, perhaps we are.
I thought we might have been.
Okay, good. Well, fingers crossed. But Upstart Crow, for those who don't know, is a story about William Shakespeare. I'll try and stop all the rhyming as I go on. It's a story about William Shakespeare, who, when the show opens, it's apparently 1592. And this is the year that, in real history, Robert Greene, who is his nemesis, as I'll explain later, had that quote in his publication, A Groat's Worth of Wit, calling him an upstart crow, beautifying his nest with our feathers, meaning that I don't like this young, uneducated playwright coming along and nicking all our stuff and making us look bad. Anyway, so Shakespeare's had some early successes in the theatre world at this point. He's shaking up the whole scene, and then we get the Upstart Crow comment by Robert Greene. Now, he's master of the revels, which means he's in control of all the theatres. This might be quite a wordy episode because there's explanations to be had. So over 3 series, we follow the journey of Will Shakespeare transitioning from this early, starting to have a few hits to becoming, the greatest playwright in the English language. And so it's all about how he's balancing his home life in the country and his humble beginnings with all this newfound fame in London. And all the while, Master of the Revels, Robert Greene, is throwing up obstacles and trying to frame him and generally being his nemesis. And so now all that might sound a bit dull, but...
The commute is a
killer.
Yeah, the commute's a killer.
Yeah, that gets mentioned later on. So let's dive into the actors and the roles, which again is all quite relevant because it's all about actors and roles. So William Shakespeare is played by David Mitchell. Now, I assume everyone knows who David Mitchell is, but if you don't, he's sort of king of the comedy panel show, a sketch veteran. And he does host a lot of panel shows and or appear as regulars on them. Anyway, he is a sketch comedy writer and performer. He's had success in the sitcom world with his own show, Peep Show, which has won a BAFTA for Best Sitcom. So he's got a bit of pedigree in the sitcom universe. And David Mitchell is, in fact, a literature nerd. Because when he was at uni, he had a part-time job as a dictionary proofreader. So he's...
Wow, that would be... Not to put down dictionary proofreaders, but...
Yeah, that's right.
That's a job that could put you to sleep pretty quickly.
Well, it could.
Aardvark. I'd be asleep by aardvark.
He, Sorry, I was just flashing back to the Blackadder dictionary episode there. Yeah, he wrote his first letter to the BBC at the age of 5 or something like that.
Yep.
Complaining about something. Anyway, that's David Mitchell. So Anne Hathaway, the wife of Shakespeare, is played by Liza Tarbuck. Who's a great actor in her own right. She's had her own series as well, such as... Well, she had the title role in a show I've never seen called Linda Green. Oh, I rhymed it again. That wasn't intentional. And so that ran for 2 series. She was the title character. She was also in a sitcom called Watching, and she was in that for 7 years. And she's been in millions of other TV shows. The irony here for Upstart Crow, of course, is that Ben Elton used to go in very hard with the boot on her dad,
Tarby.
Jimmy Tarbuck. Tarby, the famous Tarby. Now, so in 1986, around the time of Filthy Rich and Cat Flap being written and recorded and all this, Liza Tarbuck was graduating from RADA with all her actorly stuff.
Oh, Ben wouldn't have been down with that.
No, he wouldn't have been down with that. And so he's railing against Tarby in FRC. And if you'll indulge it, Steve, I'd like to insert a clip from that show.
We are having a dinner party.
Oh!
8 for 8:30. The food, the fine wine, the little chocolatey minty fingers.
Who's coming?
Oh, just 1 or 2 close personal friends. The huge, fantastic galaxy of showbiz stars are all brothers and sisters to me. Tarby, for instance, is bound to accept.
If there's one thing I hate in British entertainment more than you, it's that vast army of ex-stand-up comics who did one half-funny gag on Sunday night at the London Palladium in the middle 60s and have made a fortune doing game shows ever since. Oh, good evening! And your name is Cynthia, and you'd like me to patronise and humiliate you on the off chance of winning a cheese maid. Chicken chappies! More like complete and utter bastards, if you ask me.
Yes, I don't think anyone will be asking you, will they, Eddie? Tarby is just a simple jester. An honest broker from the Bank of Smiles. So I'll thank you to keep your embittered communistic treason to yourself during tonight's intercourse with Tarby and friends.
I am not having intercourse with Tarby, and that's final.
Social intercourse, Eddie. Social.
Phew.
Yes. And that's just one episode, one conversation.
Yeah.
Tarby was the
puts
whipping.
puts the boot in several times.
So I do wonder if Ben had to have an awkward conversation with Tarby Jr. at that point. And did they call her Tarby on the set? But anyway, we'll leave that for another day because we've got a bit of cast people to get
Tarbs.
Tarbs, yeah. So next we have Kate, who's the daughter of Shakespeare's landlord. Are you keeping up with this, everybody? So Shakey lives in the country with his family, and then when he comes to the city on business to do theatre stuff, he has his London lodgings. And Kate is the very intelligent and talented daughter of the landlord, and she's got all these aspirations to be a performer as well. And, you know, she does all the juggling and she can read Latin and she, you know, turns her hand to everything, really. So she sort of acts as Shakespeare's conscience a bit, slash lecturing him on stuff when he's about to do foolish things.
This is very funny.
So, yeah, if you're a cynic and you're looking back at Ben Elton's other sitcoms, you could say she's the Constable Habib character from Thin Blue Line. So you got this young idealistic lady who's very good at her job and blah, 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 blah. But we're not going to worry about all that. So Kate is played by Gemma Whelan, who has had plenty of bit parts in things, including Game of Thrones. But Upstart Crow is what I'd consider her most consistent work to date. And reading up on her, I imagine she's a bit like her character in that she's a pro dancer and a pro singer, and she does stand-up comedy, so she can do the whole gamut of...
All-rounder.
Yeah. There's some famous people who can do all that, like Sammy Davis Jr. and Lucille Ball and these sorts of people, and Brucey.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman, exactly. Brilliant example. Moving on, though, we've got the playwright, spy, and roistering man about town. It's Kit Marlowe.
Yes.
Played by Tim Downey, who was a regular in the sitcom Toast of London. And he's had small roles, including Count Arthur Strong, in an episode I haven't seen.
Right.
And he was in Miranda as well.
Huh.
In addition to Telly, he was also in the movie The King's Speech as the Duke of Gloucester. But he steals the show in Upstart Crow. It's a great character. Shakespeare's servant and dog's body, Ned Bottom, is played by stand-up comedian Rob Rouse. He's got his own show on the Beeb on a Sunday morning, I think. I don't know, which
radio?
Beeb. Yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yes, it is indeed radio. He hasn't got a massive IMDb listing, but it turns out that when he started his career, he was the warm-up guy at recordings of Coupling by Stephen Moffat. So he would have had lots of insight into how to do a sitcom all that whole time while he was doing stand-up for the audience. Good choice, I think. Now we move on to Master of the Revels, Robert Greene, being played by sitcom veteran Mark Heap. He's had appearance in millions of other shows and sitcoms. including ones we've covered, like he's been in Miranda and as a psychiatrist, which is one of the only 2 episodes I've ever watched. He was in Swiss Tony as a madman with a gun, holding everyone hostage. But yeah, the other telling includes The Bill. He was in Smith and Jones, Green Wing, which is a sitcom I've never heard of, but he was a regular character. You know that one?
That's in hospital?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Skins.
You're going to mention Lark Rise to Candleford?
I will. Now I'll add that onto the list.
Make sure
Lark
that's
Rise to Candleford. The Great Outdoors, Outnumbered, which is another show you enjoy. Heading Out, Benidorm, and much, much more.
Heaps. By the way, just as a note, is Kate the name of the character in Blackadder that comes in and dresses up as a bloke? So that's an amusing little Ben Elton joke, inside joke for people, isn't it?
Yeah. He's matching it all up with lots of other... Well, he's rehashing his past stuff. Yeah. Lazy bastard. No, that's not what he was saying. Moving on to Shakespeare's parents, as we were. So his mum, Mrs. Shakespeare, Mary Shakespeare, is... Yes?
No, keep going. This is going to be great.
Is played by Paula Wilcox. Woo-hoo. Yeah. Do you want me to continue with my notes, or are you going to start listing off the shows she was in?
You go.
Okay. So most of us know her from the 70s classic Man About the House as Chrissy. Well, hey. And she also starred in 2 series of another 70s sitcom called The Lovers. So she's had plenty of sitcom experience. And then I believe she took time off in the 80s and came back in the 90s with more shows. But she was opposite Peter Davison in a major role in a sitcom called Fiddler's 3.
So I haven't heard of that one.
No, so we can put it on the list for... Yeah. Note it down.
It's obviously musical, that one.
And, of course, she played the mother of Grenville's son, Leroy, in Still Open All Hours.
Oh.
Quite recently.
See, I haven't watched much Still Open All Hours.
Yeah. Now, I've got another one for you here, Steve, and she was a regular in Frank Skinner's sitcom Blue Heaven.
Oh, nice.
I've not heard of that either.
I have heard that mentioned.
Okay. Have you ever watched any?
No, not that one.
Okay. Should we pop that one down on the list as well for stuff to check out?
All right, I'll just keep writing things down.
Jolly good. So Shakespeare's dad is played by Harry Enfield. Everyone knows Harry Enfield. He's a sketch comedy giant. That's how I describe him. But never mind all that. He's most famous for having a bit part in Filthy Rich and Cat Flap.
Do not insert a clip.
No, I won't.
We're going to be running far over time.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the theatre blokes in Upstart Crow, Condell, Burbage and Kemp, I haven't bothered to go into their IMDb's because we are short on time. And, of course, there's Miss Lucy, who runs the tavern as well, and those 4 round out the regular cast. In this episode, we have a special guest star, Noel Fielding, as the famed songster Thomas Morley. Now, of course, Noel Fielding is the star of The Mighty Boosh and The Great British Bake Off, but he was a semi-regular in the IT Crowd.
Yes, but most famous for playing the ape in Garth Marenghi.
You've just hoisted me with my own petard. Oh, no. This is awful. Okay, fair enough. That's right. In that classic episode that we covered. Oh, look, the coincidences are everywhere in this one, and even that's fitting. So, unless you've got anything to add...
Nothing to add.
Then we'll go away and watch the episode.
Cool.
Musical theatre.
Oh, my God, I love it.
Love what, Condell? Mr. Shakespeare has scarcely begun to explain himself.
I don't care. I love it anyway. Just those 2 words, musical theatre. They speak to my soul.
Of course they do. I'm talking about a play with songs. What's not to love?
Everything. Let me think this through, Will. Are you suggesting that we find somebody to write songs to fit your plays?
Well, I thought that at first. Work with a composer on an original score. But then I thought, no, we need guaranteed hits. Lots of them. And how do we get those?
By using songs that are hits already.
Yes, by St. Bernard's buttered barn cakes. Yes, I'm on fire today. First, I invent the original stage musical, and then instantly make it obsolete by inventing the greatest hits musical.
And we're back, having just watched Upstart Crow Series 2, Episode 4, Food of Love, which we established was from a comedy of errors?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, jolly good.
Mistakes, misunderstandings.
And all coincidences.
And errors.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll just launch straight into the synopsis. So, this episode opens in the Stratford house of Shakespeare family, where Will is at home. He's trying to write another play, but his dad keeps badgering him about the coat of arms that he wants to make the Shakespeares a posh family, and then he'll be a gentleman and a nobleman and all this sort of stuff. Because Shakespeare's dad once was well regarded in the community before he ripped a bunch of people off and did some dodgy stuff, and now, yeah, well, that's for another story. But that's a plot arc over the whole series of this trying to get a coat of arms. And
it's pretty much the first 2 series, is that right?
Yeah. It's always humming away in the background. That Will points out to his dad and the rest of the family that the master of heraldry is Robert Greene, who hates Shakespeare. Yeah, bro. Never mind that, because Shakey's daughter wanders in and she's singing the latest hit madrigal by Thomas Morley. I don't know which one. But she's obviously been singing his songs around the house for ages and ages, and it's driving everyone completely bananas. And Shakespeare just says, look, just sing something else. It's getting on everyone's nerves.
It's a real earworm.
Susanna, will you please stop singing April is in my mistress's face? Sing something else.
Now it's the month of Maying when merry lads are playing.
But not Now is the Month of Maying or any other madrigal by Thomas Bloody Morley.
Thomas Morley is the best madrigal writer of the English Renaissance. He is God. I would die for him. I'm a Tomatty.
He is not God, daughter. He is a sugar-coated ditty guffer whose every song be 2/3 fa-la-la-la-la and the other third some arsing porridge about merry maids in May, naughty nymphs in November, or juicy jugs in July.
Never mind Thomas Bloomin' Morley. What about my coat of arms?
I'm working on it. Establishing a noble lineage is a process. You can't fake 400 years of family history overnight.
Yes, just remember that for later.
So we cut to London a couple of days later. Now, Will's in the office of Robert Greene now because he's desperately trying to establish this Shakespeare as nobles with a coat of arms business. So he goes to Greene again for what we assume is a fair few times trying to convince him. But it doesn't go very well, and Greene tells Shakespeare that his family will never be gentlemen, so there's no luck there. And after that, Will arrives back at his London lodgings. So obviously, as soon as he came to town from Stratford, he went straight to Greene's office. Now he's gone home, and that's where Kate and Bottom and Kit Marlowe, they're all sort of hanging out. And we saw Bottom just sweeping all the dust under the rug.
Yep.
Anyway.
Having a gorge and a quaff.
Yeah, that's right. So after the usual discussion about Will's journey up from Stratford, which has variations in every episode.
Yes.
And they're always quite funny. How was your journey, Will? Well, anyway. If you're familiar with the show, you'll know all about those. So they have a bit of a chat about how crappy mime is because Kate's been juggling apples and then goes into mime. No, sorry, I thought you were going to say something there. No, okay.
I was miming something instead.
And then it goes into how equally crappy Will's latest play, Titus Andronicus, is. And to be fair, Titus Andronicus is pretty violent and hardcore. And from there, they discuss the merits of a new play that Will's working on, which revolves around 2 sets of twins who were separated at birth. And there's all these coincidences, and it's based on overheard conversations and various things.
Too contrived?
Yeah.
You tell us.
Yes, that's a whole good gag, but we want to save that for the good gag section.
Sorry. Slap.
Yeah, Will's having trouble redrafting this thing to make it work. So in short, all the concepts and everything are good.
Have we said that he's under pressure to get
a play out?
Some more runs on the board?
We haven't said that, no.
No, we made that. Well, he made that point in the first scene.
Yeah, he's got to get.
Dad's wanting the coat of arms or whatever, and Will's saying to him, "Hang on, I've got other things I need to be doing, like making money by writing plays."
Exactly,
and they're demanding another one.
Yeah, he's got to crank out one a fortnight at this rate.
That's right.
Yeah, so he wants to put out this new coincidences play, but the problem he's got is that the drama and the dialogue is good, Kate tells him, but it hinges on this completely ridiculous plot. And it's never going to work as a play because people just aren't going to accept that. They can't suspend their disbelief that much. And so she sort of suggests to him that you need some other form of performance where these conventions of plot don't apply, where you can do the maddest, most whimsical, absurd things you like. and they can't come up with a solution, so Bottom, in an attempt to cheer everyone up, decides to sing a happy song, but he chooses a Thomas Morley song.
ditty.
But Kate and Kit join in vociferously, and they're all loving it, and they're just saying how brilliant all his songs are and how they appeal directly to the emotions and the senses and the soul. And a light goes off in Will's brain, and he's figured out a solution. But before telling them what it is, spoiler, he's just invented the musical. He runs off to the theatre to talk to Condell and Burbage and Kemp.
He's invented theatrical music.
Quite. So we do cut to the theatre, and the three blokes are they're discussing Titus Andronicus behind Will's back, saying, brilliant. We just can't do this. This is horrible. And what is it? Condell says, well, I certainly shan't be recommending it to Mother.
I won't be bringing my mum along.
Oh, wow. And we get the traditional Kemp bit where he's channeling Ricky Gervais, and that's always the highlight of Upstart Crow. From here, Will bursts in and excitedly tells them about his idea for musical theatre, plays that are based around music, not just having a little bit of lute at the start and a bit of pipes at the end, but to have songs in the musical. In the play.
Amazing.
Oh, it's amazing no one had thought of it before. Anyway, plays that are based around music, and he explains that people will come again and again and again to hear all the hits, and also it'll let him get away with a nonsensical plot.
Yes.
But I think Burbage here can, on the whiff of repeat business, he's thinking he can coin it in. But anyway, the theatre guys love it, so Burbage and Will go off to meet with Tommy Morley, the hit maker.
Yep.
And initially, this does not go well.
No, why not?
Well, Morley likes the idea, but in his mind, it's a musical all about him. The Thomas Morley story.
Yes.
The Tomster and all this sort of stuff. He comes up with all these titles, and Will is saying, steady on a minute, dude.
Yep.
This is actually a normal play. We just want to use your songs and have my plot and my script, which is all fine. But then Morley says, oh, well, suit yourself. I'll just get some other geezer to write a story and still use all the songs. And Burbage has to talk Will around because Mr. Shakespeare's not very happy.
Yep.
I was just wondering if the show should be about you at all.
Why not? It's my musical.
Our musical, huh? I provide the script.
Yeah, you or some other geezer.
What other geezer?
I don't know. Anyone. You want the gig or not? Have a word.
Have a care, Will. Mr. Morley has created the most valuable back catalogue in Christendom.
And I've written 3 hits called Henry VI and a 4th called Richard III. The point is, I'm not going to write some tawdry hagiography designed to massage the ego of Thomas Bloody Morley.
Then with deeper sadness, I must needs commission some other geezer, and you will have no play, no income, and be yet further from buying the coat of arms on which you've set your heart. So...
Right, so... Norwich Boy it is.
So anyway, not given much choice, Will goes along with the plan, and the musical Norwich Boy is born.
Norwich Boy.
Yeah, things are starting to heat
up.
Got
a real ring to it.
Yeah, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. I'll assume yes. Anyway, the next scene, it has Robert Greene gathered around a table by candlelight with some co-conspirators who are apparently all the high-end poets and playwrights and things. All the high-minded type puritanical people. Anyway, they're horrified by this new potential form of entertainment, musical theatre.
For the masses.
For the masses. Yes, Green describes it as, quote, the most heinous attack on high culture since the first clown showed his bottom to the mob.
Nice.
And someone else replies, the theatre is no place for entertainment.
Yes.
Now, this is a callback to a Filthy Rich and Cat Flap gag, but we'll point out all the callbacks later on. So these
Strap yourselves in, listeners. Yeah, this is going to be a long one.
Yeah, it's basically like redoing Filthy Rich and Cat Flap. The poets and scholars, they're going to resolve to shut this down, but they don't reveal how to us, the audience, no. So hence we move on to Shakespeare's London lodgings, and I like this bit. So it's where Will's actually working on the play, and I always love it in Upstart Crow where he's bandying ideas about with Kit and Kate and Bottom and stuff. These are the best bits. So they're working on the musical, and we find out that even though Will's supposed to be writing Thomas Morley's life history, his plan is to crowbar in the whole twins coincidence plot. And there's hilarious extended complex bits here where he's pointing out how it all works. And it's hard to keep track of which twin and then which servant and all that. So we're not going to go through all that here. But yeah, it's pretty good. So he's trying to jam all that in. And he says, don't worry, Tommy Morley's going to love all this. And he'll go along with pretending he had a twin brother because it means he gets to do double Tommy. So we now move on to the theatre during rehearsal for Norwich Boy. And Condell, Burbage and Kemp are there sort of acting out some scenes while Tommy Morley's at the harpsichord playing along and, they're giving each other feedback.
Yep.
So happily, it looks like Tommy's really digging this. And in fact, he does say he loves it at least 3 times in this scene. Oh, it's fantastic.
I am loving this.
So that's really good. And he's very enthusiastic. And everything's looking good for Will. And then we cut from there directly to the end of the first night's performance. And the crowd are going insane.
The hands are waving like they thought they might be.
They're all up in the air. And everyone's singing along and having a great time. And it's an absolute smash. And we see Tommy, flashing a big grin and thumbs up to Shaky.
Yep.
And Shaky's happy. But then we see Robert Greene looming in the background. It's a total smasheroo, as they say. So we go from there to Miss Lucy's Tavern, and obviously everyone's getting hammered because they've had this big successful opening night. And Lucy suggests an idea for a musical with African tunes in it about a lion cub that can't wait to be king.
Yeah.
And they sort of poo-poo this idea.
Who'd want to see that?
Yeah. What is it? One of the most popular shows of all time?
Yes.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so they poo-poo the Lion King. Anyhow, Burbage replies that Norwich Boy has the theatre full and it's going to play forever because it's so popular. So we can't do Lion King. Anyway, at that very moment, Robert Greene bursts into the tavern and announces loudly that Norwich Boy's run is already over. Oh, which we don't
How
really
could that
explain.
be?
Oh, don't. Well, I'll tell you. Green's made this arrangement with Tommy Morley where if he agrees to pull his songs out of the musical and not let the boys in the theatre use them, he'll arrange for the Queen to give him a knighthood and he'll be Sir Tommy Morley. And so obviously Tommy goes along with this, which totally puts the kibosh on the whole play. And here we arrive pretty much at the end of the episode with all their hopes dashed. But they decide there's nothing for it but to put this comedy of coincidences, somethings and somethings
Mistakes
on.
and misunderstandings.
Yeah, and Will just says, no worries, instead of the songs, we'll just replace them with extended monologues.
Yep.
Right, so as usual at the end of an episode of Upstart Crow, he goes home and talks about it with his family and his wife. So anyway, Shaky's home at Stratford, and the family are all cross with him. So Dad's annoyed he didn't get the coat of arms, and his daughter's not liking his gift at all, which is a signed Tommy Morley undershirt. And you might have missed this bit, Steve, but Will holds it up and it's embroidered with El Tomo on it. And you can see a big signature on it. It looks pretty cool. So I do wonder who signed that in reality. Yes, she doesn't like Tommy anymore because he sold out and did a musical.
How uncool.
Yes. And then he has a nice end of show conversation with his wife. And that's pretty much the end.
Yeah. Well done, Jeff.
Thank you. So at this point, it's normally traditional that we sort of start going into the lists of observations and gags and things. But in the earlier section, we forgot to go through how we came across Upstart Crow. And with these modern sitcoms, it's pretty easy to say, well, it was on and I watched it. But that wasn't the case here because it didn't come to the ABC for quite a while. How did you come across Upstart Crow, Steve? Was it me saying to you, hey, you've got to check out this? No, okay.
Check this out.
Oh, cool.
And it didn't take too much arm twisting. No. Being a combination of Ben Elton and Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right in my alley.
My
wheelhouse.
I can see why. I would never have known about it, but I was listening to the Jason Manford podcast, and he had Rob Rouse on.
Oh.
And Rob Rouse was talking about how he'd got this part in a new Ben Elton sitcom.
Yep.
And I went, what? And I hit Google straight away. And the next episode was coming up. The first episode was going to be coming out very shortly.
Was it like a promotional appearance, was it?
I guess so, but he's got all his friend comedians on all the time anyway. So I think it was just Rob's turn to be on the Jason Manford show, and he was plugging it.
Yep.
Anyhow, and so from there, we were alerted to Upstart Crow, and thankfully we didn't miss any of it. So that was good. Otherwise, we might never have found it.
It was on our radar.
Yes. Took a while to get on the ABC, though.
Yes. Well, worth waiting for.
Yeah. Right. Over to you.
Oh, what do you want?
Oh, whatever you like.
I've got a list of gags, but also I could talk a bit about the structure of things.
Cool.
Well, I'm interested to see why you chose this particular episode. This one doesn't include the typical scene where Kate will, like Shakespeare, will claim some famous quote as his own.
Yes. And she'll say,
actually, no, I don't think that was yours.
No, that was in an obscure text from 1327 or something.
That's from the Bible. And he'll go, no, I'm sure I wrote it. It wasn't there. There was an episode where he steals something from the Bible, and he makes up something about they must have gone backwards in time.
He explains that the fairies went back in time.
Something like this.
They'd overheard Shakespeare saying it, went back in time and whispered it in the ear of people who were around in biblical times.
Anyway, they're always my favourite bits. So
you missed out there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So why this one? Or maybe that's your summary.
Well, it's in part of my summary, but I don't mind saying it now. I chose this one. The number one method of selection was fun, and this is the funnest episode of Upstart Crow. You're looking at me very doubtfully there.
No.
But this episode is a lot of fun, and so what happens in this one is they all seem to be working together, because normally Will will do something, and Bottom and Kate will say, that's a stupid idea, don't do that, and they'll be arguing, and then you've got Green arguing with him, and the family's arguing with him. But in this one, they all seem to come together. Everyone's having fun. The songs are fun. Yeah, everything's just, they're all working in one direction, which is why I like it.
Another interesting thing about this one is that usually he's kind of fighting against the inclusion of something in his play which they suggest, but then after events kind of play out, it stays in and is potentially the most famous part of the play.
Yeah.
But in this case, he's including something which is the musical stuff, and that gets taken out at the end.
Yeah.
And doesn't form part of the finished product.
No.
So it's kind of a bit backwards.
Not your usual Upstart Crow then. Well, I hope this isn't going to work against it.
No. Carry on.
Oh, okay. I will. So there's so much to go into about this. You could write essays about it. So let's just go back to the standard facts. Okay, so this came about in 2016 because it was the 400th year anniversary of Shakespeare's death. So whether they said to Ben Elton, hey, Ben, can you come up with something? Or whether he had it up his sleeve and then suggested it to them, I don't know. But I'd love to know more about that. That's quite interesting. And then Ben Elton sort of turns out to be the perfect dude to write it. But at the same time, he has hammered Shakespeare in the past. And you'll never guess which sitcom he did it in, Steve.
Yeah, and he hammers Shakespeare all the way through Upstart Crow as well.
Oh, no, it's all done with love.
Yes.
By this point. But I think in his earlier years, he was, maybe a bit anti-Shakes. Anyway, I'm going to insert another clip here from Filthy Rich and Cat Flap.
Eddie, this is Shakespeare. And everybody knows what Shakespeare is. Crap. Yes. No, well, yes. What is the thing about Shakespeare, you see, Edwin? Shakespeare, being a genius, is allowed slightly more license than us lesser mortals.
Yes, but no one takes Richie's opinion on anything seriously. So.
No, possibly not. So let's talk about the tax business.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, so if you want to start there.
Yeah. So you've got Tommy Morley, played brilliantly by Noel Fielding. Oh, well, I'd give him, 6.5, 7 out of 10.
Right.
He's obviously a tax dodger, which they say very blatantly at the end, but also when you're first introduced to him, and they say, thank you for inviting us to your lovely home, Mr. Morley. He goes, well, technically it's not my home. It's owned by an offshore
shelf company
holding company that's registered in Liechtenstein, and blah, 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 blah. Now, we don't have to know the background to this to enjoy that gag, because you can tell there's just some financial chicanery, but it's based on Gary Barlow, who wrote musicals and has been a hit songwriter dude and was in Take That and all this sort of thing. And he got busted, much like Jimmy Carr, for doing some dodgy tax practices. And not much more about it do I know. So it's taken the mickey out of him.
It's funny because he says he's all about the music.
I just want to make music,
man. But he's not really, is he?
No.
He's all about the dollars.
What's his defence? That he just leaves. He doesn't want to know about money, so he leaves it to other people, and those other people did him wrong.
Yeah. And turns out he's also wanting titles and things like that as well. Yeah,
but other people would know more about that than we would. That would have been a bit of a British phenomenon. I think. But the point being that you don't need to know about that to enjoy it. And I think with Upstart Crow, it's a similar thing with Shakespeare. Now, you know a bit about Shakespeare, and I know a bit about Shakespeare. And if you do, there's a lot more gags in there to enjoy. But, they can go over your head and you won't even know they're there to enjoy. So you don't have to know anything about Shakespeare to enjoy Upstart Crow.
There's like the surface level stuff, which, like you're saying, is enjoyable on its own, but then he's both taking the mickey out of the olden day stuff, like from Shakespeare's, he's working on that level, plus he's also having a go at modern day stuff, and it's all happening at the same time. Yeah. It's very, very dense and well put together.
Well, exactly. There's so many levels of meta. So he's taking, exactly as you say, he's taking the mickey out of what's happening then in reality, and then the mickey of what's happening now in reality, and then all the theories on Shakespeare that have happened in the meantime, plus he's taking the mickey out of himself and other people. There's, like you say, it's really dense, man. It's very good. So obviously this one takes aim at greatest hits musicals, and most notably Ben Elton writing the Queen musical, which he must have gotten a lot of flack for. And selling out and all these sorts of things.
He must have made a lot of money.
Oh, he must have made a lot of money. Quite right.
Hope you had a good tax dodge going.
Well, he's an Australian citizen. There's probably all sorts of things he can do to park money away down here.
Seriously?
I don't know. Who can tell? Look,
tune into our other podcast.
Yeah, tune into the
Stephen Jeff's Financial Tips,
for which every episode is based on a sitcom. Okay. So there's a lot here about selling out. I mean, I know we've just skipped over the whole Ben Elton taking the mickey out of himself stuff. There's a lot of good things there. But let's talk about selling out. So there's all sorts of levels with selling out here as well. So Will just wants to get his play on. But in the end, he has to go along with what the other person says to get his play on. So he sells out. Tommy sells out. And he could be having a big hit musical, but no, he sells out for a title. And, Ben sold out, apparently, and then that's the whole thing at the end. His daughter doesn't like Tommy anymore, Will's daughter, because he sold out. And I'm sure a lot of people called Ben Elton out on selling out and doing various things. And Shakespeare's dad at the beginning was saying, don't worry about me and my little petty crimes. What about all these other famous people doing dodgy financial dealings and all this? Yep. They're the real criminals. And then Will brilliantly shuts him down. But, and then there's that connection with Tommy Morley at the end and all that.
Yep.
What have you got, Steve?
Yeah, one of my favourite things about Upstart Crow is always the chat at the end, which he has with his wife around the fire, when all the hubbub at home has died down and the plot has completely played itself out, and they're usually reflecting on what's gone wrong with the stuff that's happened in the episode. And in this case, so as an example, in this case, they're talking about this idea which he had of musical theatre, which is obviously not going to happen now. And they're talking about what it could have looked like in the future if it had taken off. And she says something like, if London was covered in theatres,
all having musicals
running in them, it would be like a living nightmare.
Yeah.
So I like those kind of thoughts and nice gags at the end that tie everything up.
And they give you a good perspective on how we live today.
Yep. And she's usually trying to make him feel better about all the stuff that's gone wrong.
Whereas in this case, most things went right.
Did it? He didn't get the title for his dad.
No, but he did get his new play on.
Yeah, but...
And it's a hit, the comedy.
Is it a hit?
Yeah, because he said at the very end, while him and his wife were having that discussion, well, we put on a comedy of errors without the songs, and against everyone's expectations, it turned out to be a hit.
Oh, there you go.
Which is really nice.
Well done, Will.
Yeah. That's another way this episode goes right, whereas the others tend to go a little bit wrong. I agree, they are nice bits.
Oh, so, yes, it worked out well for him, because if the songs had been left in the play, then everyone would have thought he was a sellout like his daughter.
Ah, yeah, right.
But they all got taken out before any of that could happen.
Oh, good.
It did turn out right.
Let's go into some of these callbacks and repeating things. Did you find any at all?
You mean callbacks to things that happened earlier in the episode?
Previous Ben Elton sitcoms where you've gone, he's used that before and this is where he used it.
Well, I brought up the one of Kate from Blackadder.
Yep.
In Blackadder, she makes an appearance in Series 3.
Well, no, you did.
2, 3, and 4.
That's conceptual, I would argue.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas I'm talking about literal lines that he's lifted directly from himself.
No.
No,
Can't think of any of those.
Right, so...
You're not going to insert any more clips?
No, I won't. I'll explain it. I'm tempted. So Will is there. This is a Thin Blue Line gag. And he's going, well, Kate, what did you think of Titus Andronicus? You know, be straight with me. I can handle it. And she goes, well, it was a bit violent. And he goes, oh, thank you very much. Now, that's an Inspector Grimm conversation where he goes, you know, Boyle, does my face look a bit podgy?
Yep.
And he goes, come on, give it to me straight. I can take it. He goes, well, perhaps just a touch. Oh, thank you very much. That's charming, that is. That's really helped my confidence.
It's all right. You've just got to shine a torch under your chin.
That's right. He looks like he's resting his jaw on a stack of crumpets. What a great line. Oh, man. So that's almost word for word, straight out of Thin Blue Line. And why not? You know, it works. Now, the other one, this is from Filthy Rich and Cat Flap. When the poet, sort of snobby person around the table with Robert Greene, said the theatre is not a place of entertainment. When Richie was at the BBC trying to sell them his game show, Eddie was doing some things that were annoying him, like shouting crackerjack. And he goes, Eddie, this is the BBC, not a place of entertainment.
Yep. Well done.
Yeah. So let's get on to some of your gags.
Let's start with you can't fake 400 years of family history overnight, which is something Will says to his family, but then you switch scenes to Robert's office and he's saying, you know, you
Mr.
can't
Shakespeare.
Yes. You can't fake fake.
Yeah.
Drop in for a quaff and a gorge. I thought that was classic. He gives an extremely... This is where we were saying that it's not the usual complaint about the quality of the journey. In fact, this journey that he's had from Avon has been really good, but he gives an extremely long-winded answer to that question. That's pretty funny. He gets told off about 3 or 4 times for being overly long-winded in this episode, usually in the context of his plays. Someone says something about his work being unredeemable or something like that.
Yep, that's on my list if you want.
And he says, that's the most deemable thing I've written all week.
It's a great line on its own.
Yep, I love that one.
But it follows it up. So Kate is calling Titus Andronicus, his new play, irredeemable. And he says, irredeemable? It's the most deemable thing I've written this week. To which she replies, deemable isn't a word. He goes, it is if I bloody say it is.
Yep.
That's what I do. And that's a
Invent
regular...
language. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. He says that in the case of musical theatre, being cheesy might be a plus.
Very prescient there. He got that bang on.
Yeah, nothing too subtle about that. That's the end of the list. I think we've already covered all of the other ones.
Okay. Well, you had a nice chuckle where when they were in the theatre and Burbage and Kemp are having their discussion about the merits of comedy, and of course Kemp's doing his whole Ricky Gervais thing about how comedy should be, and he just, look, in comedy, jokes are worse than laughter. Yeah, I know we're not doing it justice here, but the whole lead up to that makes that line pay off beautifully.
Yep.
It's really, really good. And also...
Then he goes on to really hammer Ricky Gervais when he's talking about laughing at his own jokes
and all
inanely and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Another great gag is Shakespeare saying, I'm on fire today. First I invent the musical, then instantly make it obsolete by inventing the greatest hits musical. I love to see him having success. Here's things that aren't necessarily gags, but I love it every time Will calls Ned Bottom, his servant, Botsky. And I think there's a pattern in that he only ever does it when he gets back from a journey. He goes, Botsky, which I always think is great. And it's even better when Kit does it as well.
Yep, with his feet up on the table or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So getting back to the Tomster, Noel Fielding, playing it with all his usual flourishes, and I just like he sits down on Burbage's lap.
I wonder if that was scripted or not.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would have been. No, it's just Noel being Noel and draping himself across Burbage, and then he gets up and gets some drinks and plonks himself down very snugly next to David Mitchell and gives him a big kiss on the cheek. It's fantastic.
He's talking so close to the other guy, to Burbage.
It's unbelievable. Really cool.
He's on fire in that scene in the theatre.
Yes. Where they're doing rehearsal.
Yeah.
And he just leaps to his feet. I'm loving this.
He's just been playing on the harpsichord.
Yeah, it's really good. That's the tricky thing, because his character is so unlikable, but still so likable. Now, when Will's, and I still don't get half of it, but he's explaining this incredibly contrived twins thing, separated at birth but having the same name, and then another set of twins, and da-da-da-da-da. And he's just finished going through the whole thing, and Kate's sort of saying, well, I'm not sure about this. And he goes, what? That could easily happen.
Yep.
And then later on, when he explains that that's what happened to Tommy.
In real life.
Yes. And then she
buys right into it.
She buys right into it. Dear, oh dear. Yes.
Come on, Kate.
Right. Oh, yes.
Did you think it was funny that the musical was Tommy?
I did. That's the
who?
The Pete
Townsend.
That's him. Yes, Tommy. Very good. It's not a greatest hits musical, though, is it?
Nope.
Oh, and the other gag at the beginning when he's rambling about how easy kids have it today, Shakespeare says kids can't even fart these days without beaming parents bottling it for grandma, which is a classic line. Again, we're not doing these justice, but there you go. Well, I suppose now's as good a time as any to segue into why Upstart Crow should get into the Hall of Fame. So firstly, it's Ben Elton getting back to doing a historical in the same way as Blackadder. But also, it's about the entertainment biz, which he knows all about. So it's like you're getting all the benefits of Blackadder, but you're also getting all the entertainment biz gags. And because Blackadder not being real and Shakespeare being real, you can appreciate all the real life stuff he throws in there for accuracy and for all the Shakespeare buffs. So while it's not as good as Blackadder by any stretch of the imagination, Upstart Crow still has all these extra benefits, and it's just like getting more series of Blackadder in many ways, I feel. I mean, I know we do it on a per episode basis for Sitcom Showdown, not the whole series.
Is it not? So you don't think it's anywhere as good as Blackadder? It's not as accessible.
No.
But even bits of Blackadder are not super accessible, like the Samuel Johnson episode.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I think also Blackadder can be far more crazy because Upstart Crow's constrained somewhat by having to fit into the real life of Shakespeare. So while on one hand you're getting all these great moments that you can appreciate with a historical accuracy and playing and getting points off that, it is also constrained by it. But no, I wouldn't think of Upstart Crow as being as good as Blackadder. I mean, it's close, but I don't think it is. And there's nothing wrong with anyone who does think it's as good as Blackadder. Well, where do you reckon it stands? If Blackadder's a 9 out of 10, where's Upstart Crow?
Whoa. It's like one below Blackadder, something like that.
That's what I'd think too.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I really like it. But I think Ben is walking a bit of a thin line here because he is trying to make it accessible to everyone, yet score extra points off of the historical background and all this sort of thing as well. So
true.
It's a mammoth task he set himself.
And he did need another hit because his last few sitcoms before that hadn't been particularly well received, and so it's a great return to form, I think, for him. So who knows if it's because he knows Shakespeare so well and can do all that, and because it's about the entertainment biz, or whether it's because he's back to doing historicals, and not only do the BBC do that very well with the sets and the costumes and all that, but just because setting things in the past and having people do things from today is always very funny.
Well, the casting of David Mitchell, you'd have to say, is a stroke of genius.
Yep.
There's nothing like watching him have a grumble.
Very true. I'd say everyone's well cast, to be honest with you. So basically everything in my wrap-up we've already discussed. So Upstart Crow is meta on all sorts of levels. You've got plenty of cracking gags in there as well. How fun it all is. And the cast is very, very good. And I think it all just works. But yes, so what do you think about bunging this episode of Upstart Crow in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
And this wasn't one that I'd actually seen before, but...
Was it not?
Yes.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I shall have to lend you this DVD, which still has the wrapping on it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, no worries.
I'll enjoy that. Well,
that was
let's
easy.
Going in then.
Excellent. All right, so then Upstart Crow goes into the Hall of Fame. I came in very confident that it would.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a slam dunk.
All right, cool.
Well done, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you very much, and well done, Ben Elton and David Mitchell and the whole cast.
another one on the board for Ben.
Yes. Possibly
accelerating him further into the lead.
Over Graham Linehan?
Yeah. Graham's going to... Come on, Graham. You're going to have to lift your game and write another... another 2 to...
At least?
Yeah.
Oh,
another 2 sitcoms, please. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to send us anything, it'd be good to hear from people. We like that.
Any sort of feedback?
Yeah. Oh, not any sort of feedback. Just the positive feedback.
Just the positive feedback. All right, cool. No worries.
All right, well, we'll see you in a fortnight, roughly.
Yep.
Where I'm going to be nominating something, and you have not seen it before.
Oh, really?
I don't think, no.
Oh, that either means it's fresh off the presses or we've just never spoken about it before.
It's not.
No? Oh, okay.
Not fresh off the presses.
Oh, blimey cracky. All right, well, that sounds all very enticing and mysterious. So, yes, dear listener, please join us then next time when it's Steve's turn for Sitcom Showdown, episode 53 coming up. Woohoo!
All right, see you then.
Cheers. Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.